Hey everyone, I'm Kidder. Have you ever had a midlife crisis? Are you even there yet? Maybe you're too young to have a midlife crisis. Will it happen to you? We don't know. But I want to tell you about something I went through. I just recently turned 40 and decided to make a huge career change. I'm gonna jump into stand-up comedy. But why? Do you want to be an entertainer? You like being in the spotlight? You like making people laugh? I know I do, but it wasn't that easy. It wasn't that easy of a decision. There was an incident. A little over a year ago, there was a situation at a drive-through Starbucks. That's right, a drive-through Starbucks. There I was, patiently waiting, in line with like 20 other cars. And as I waited, the line slowly crept forward. We were in a parking lot. I decided to leave a small gap so cars who were trying to park in the parking lot could pass by. That's when a young lady who was just behind me in the queue decided to pull around me, cut in front of me, and the incident began. Sadly, I acted like a small child. She cut me in line. That's when I decided to honk a few times. And after she just did nothing, I decided, you know what? I'm tired of people taking advantage of others. I'm gonna get out and say something. So I did. I got out of that car. I approached her car. Her window was cracked open. I decided to confront her and ask her why she would do such a thing. This was early in the morning, about 6:30 in the morning. That's when she said, and I quote, "I thought you were just waiting for another parking spot." Really? This entire parking lot is empty. If I was waiting for a parking spot, I would have found one already. That's when she said, "You need to leave me alone. No, you need to back out of the line." She proceeded with calling me names, so I felt the need to do the same. And so after calling her a and a stupid, yeah, I'm gonna have to bleep that out. I decided, you know what? It's not worth it. I'm gonna walk back to my car. So I started walking back to my car, and I don't know why, in the middle of seeing red, I turned back and looked at her. She was maybe 18, 19 years old, driving a Mercedes SUV. And I looked back at her car and walked back and ripped the windshield wiper blade off the back of her rear window. In the meantime, while doing that, I sliced my finger open and started bleeding. I definitely deserved that. But I got back in the car and sped away as someone with road rage or someone raging would. At that point, I did not want to wait in line, especially not behind her. So I drove away. A few months later, I got a letter in the mail saying that I had to come to court because I had a misdemeanor against me for vandalism. So this was a huge shock to me. It was a huge blow to my ego. I've never dealt with any type of illegal incidents in the past. I've never had to deal with the court of law besides like speeding tickets and stuff like that. This was a very scary situation for me. In the end, I got it reduced to an infraction for disturbing the peace, for basically making noise, and my $5 coffee turned out to be a $5,000 coffee. Yeah, it's really stupid, it's really silly what I went through. It's very childish. It's one of those things I wish I probably could have taken back. However, I will tell you this, had I not done that, I might not have found myself in the situation of doing stand-up comedy. The silver lining is it brought me to stand-up comedy. Now, I didn't just vandalize someone's car and then have an epiphany. Through that whole process, my wife basically said, "You need to talk to someone." So she said, "Go see a therapist, or maybe go do stand-up comedy." Now, I thought that was weird, but the more and more I thought about it, doing stand-up, comedians get up on stage and talk about their issues all the time. There's a lot of noise under my house because I have workers here. Comedians get up and talk about their problems all the time. And that's what she was alluding to. You need to get up and talk about your problems, figure them out, face them. With that said, I decided to, okay, I could either go into stand-up comedy or I can seek therapy. Therapy versus stand-up comedy. There are pros and cons of each, and I really started looking at what could be better for me. Let's talk about therapy. First off, you're talking to a doctor, someone who might be able to diagnose an issue. Another pro is I could then focus on other things in my life. I think talking to a doctor, it might be easier to come up with solutions. They've talked to many other people with maybe similar issues as me, so they might have solutions readily available. Also, talking to a therapist, it might be a little easier. Okay, what are my options? Stand up, getting in front of a large room of drunk people, or doing therapy, a one-on-one session talking to someone about your problems. There are many cons to me for doing therapy. It's expensive. Cheap therapists might charge you $100, $150. An expensive therapist, $300, $400, $500 an hour. Another thing, a lot of people talk to therapists all the time, and I look at them and go like, you still have the same issues. Does therapy really work? I still don't know. Maybe you guys can comment below, let me know. If you see a therapist, maybe you can say, hey, Chris, it does work. I'm very much an extrovert, but just coming in over and over, talking to the same stranger, maybe we get to know each other, but it isn't like we build a relationship. And I feel like if you and I were having a conversation over and over, week after week, I'd want to develop a relationship with you more than just sitting in the same room talking. Like, I would want to go have coffee. I feel like that is impossible with a therapist. My whole concept of therapy is rooted in movies, television, and it always portrays the person going in over and over and over, just rehashing the same problems over and over and over with no light at the end of the tunnel. So I really started looking at the stand-up side of it. What are the pros? What are the cons? And is this a better choice for me? The best pro about stand-up comedy from a financial standpoint is that it's cheap. There's no money really going into it just to write jokes and get up and tell your jokes. Others would probably argue with me. You got classes, you got open mics where they charge you, pay to reserve a spot in a show, but those costs are along the way and as you grow. Probably one of my favorite things about stand-up comedy, you could bring your darkest, deepest secrets, bring them out into the light and make fun of them, have fun with it, make jokes, crack jokes. People have no idea, is this true? Is he telling us a story from his past? He's saying me, but is it him or is it his friend? There's so much ambiguity to it. So it's a fun way to get up there and dump all your stress and everything onto the crowd, and they are none the wiser. They know absolutely nothing of the issues that have affected you in your past. What I thought would be great with stand-up is just engaging a group. If you're the type of person who likes to be in a circle of friends at a party, at a gathering, and you like the center of attention, you like to crack the jokes, and you like to tell the stories, and you like all eyes on you, then definitely stand-up could be a great option for you, because that is the case. You are on stage, and yes, you might only see the first row or the second row. Some stages you might not see anyone. The lights are so bright. You might have a giant room with 100 people. You might only see 5 because they're right here next to the stage, and those lights are bright. I feel like doing stand-up would be a great way to have that engagement with lots of people and having lots of fun. What I also thought stand-up would allow me to be creative. Now, I moved out to LA 19 years ago to be in front of the camera. I moved from Buffalo, New York, all the way across the country to Hollywood so that I could work in Hollywood, in movies, on television, be in front of the screen. Now, things didn't pan out the way I wanted to, but I did work in the film industry for a very long time and still do today. But with stand-up, I figured if I made that option, if I made that jump, that leap, maybe this would give me another flame to reignite that creative side of my brain. And I thought this would be the perfect opportunity to do that. Also, a lot of people say that laughter is a form of healing. Being able to laugh, laughing at your own personal problems or personal issues, laughing at your body, laughing at like just having a good time. It is very therapeutic. We talked about the pros to stand up. What are the cons? Does it actually fix any issues that you might have? Honestly, like, I think it could potentially do that just by getting up there and again, talking like you would to a therapist, but bringing a lot of jokes into the conversation about the stuff you're dealing with. It's probably going to create a lot of pressure on you personally. Financially, if you're doing stand-up, you're not going to make any money doing stand-up. You have the pressures of, are you going to be successful? Everyone that you know, you're in your circles, are going to look at you and be like, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? Are you even any good? And then you have your own personal pressure you're going to put on yourself. Am I putting in enough time? How much time is everyone else doing it? Am I as good as the other comedians? Then you're like, well, we all started around the same time. These guys are doing great. Those are pressures that a lot of people are probably gonna have to deal with if they choose this career path. That could really be looked at as a con. How about having a bad night, a bad set? What's that do to you? If I'm gonna choose stand-up comedy as therapy, a form of therapy, I get to get up on stage and just relieve all this stress. But then comes the dreaded bomb. No one thinks your stuff is funny. Maybe you're having a bad night. Your mind was somewhere else earlier that day. You get up on stage and it just doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel good. The crowd isn't feeling you. And now you walk off set feeling like garbage. Another thing I started thinking about is, well, if I do stand-up, what if I succeed? This could be a con. I have a wife, I have 2 kids. My kids are still young. If you succeed as a stand-up comedian, that's generally going to require you to start traveling. There could be moving up and down the West Coast, staying in hotels, going to comedy clubs night after night after night. If you're on the road doing stand-up, then you're not at home with your wife and kids. So that is definitely a con for someone like me. That was my pros and cons of therapy versus stand-up comedy. I want to know what your thoughts are. What do you think about stand-up versus therapy? Maybe you prefer therapy and would never try stand-up comedy. If you wouldn't, why not? Is it you're afraid of public speaking? You don't want to get up? Have you ever told a joke at a group and like bombed just with your friends? I mean, I know I have. We've all said those stupid jokes and then people just went, oh, that's not funny. For me, this is my journey as a stand-up comedian. I want to share with you the stuff that I've gone through, the stuff I'm going to go through. Guys, this is going to be a great year. 2020 is going to be fantastic. At this point, you can tell I'm choosing stand-up comedy. I'd love to know, what do you do to be creative? Stand-up comedy for me could be creative in many ways, not just the stand-up portion. There's the writing portion. Now you're writing for your stand-up. Maybe you're writing a book. Maybe you're writing for a TV show. Maybe you write and submit jokes into Jimmy Kimmel, Jimmy Fallon, and all these other nightly shows. For me, being creative, I'm going to meet tons of comedians and we can create together. This is just a fantastic way for one person to be creative. And what I like about it is you don't have to be in LA to be a comedian. Now it's great that I'm here. There are tons of comedy clubs here, but it isn't the only place where stand-up exists. You can do stand-up all over the country. And what I like about it too is it could just open so many doors. I'm so excited about it that I want to bring it to light and share that with people. I've looked all over YouTube for channels on stand-up comedians. I've studied a lot of stand-up comedians, but I haven't seen a channel that just follows the life of a stand-up comedian. What are they going through? What are they studying? What is it like doing open mics? What is it like post open mic, breaking down this set, going through all that? And that's what 2020 is all about. It's about you and about this journey. How can I bring you along and show you what it's like? We're going to be in comedy classes. We're going to be doing mics. We're going to be doing shows all year long. And I would love to hear what you guys want to see. Throw them in the comment section below. If you or someone you know is psyched about stand-up comedy, they might even have talked about doing stand-up, or you think they should be doing stand-up, make sure you share this video, like this video. The plan for 2020, just so you know, is to drop a video every week, the 7th, the 14th, the 21st, and the 28th of every month. So stay tuned. We're going to be dropping all kinds of videos. You're going to be loving the videos. You're going to be liking the videos, sharing them, can't get enough. And this could open a door for you. You might say, I love this. I want to do stand-up comedy. Maybe this process will open your eyes and show you that you can do this too. All right, guys, I have some questions for you. Have you ever gone through a midlife crisis? Now, obviously, if you're 21, you didn't go through a midlife crisis, but maybe you have a quarter life crisis, as people are starting to call it. Maybe you'll never have a midlife crisis. I'd love to know why. If you've had a midlife crisis and thought about stand-up, I want to know. And if you're okay with me sharing that, I'd love to share that. Maybe you're doing stand-up comedy and maybe you're doing it because you had an issue in your life. I'd love to hear that too. These are the things that kind of shape and form us as stand-up comedians, and I'd love to hear all about it. All right, make sure you watch next week's video when we dive into a stand-up comedian's journey. Where do we start? Do we start with education? Do we just go to an open mic and take the big leap? Stay tuned. All right, everyone, I'm Kidder. Have a wonderful day. I was done.